There's nothing more that nerds like me enjoy more than hypotheticals. Who would win in a fight, Rocket Raccoon or Jessica Jones? What D&D alignment would rose quartz be? And of course, what certain characters, items and locations would look like as Magic the Gathering cards. Well, this last one used to be a hypothetical, but ever since Wizards of the Coast, the parent company that makes the trading card game, started doing releases called Universes Beyond, it became significantly less hypothetical. We do in fact now know what characters like the 10th Doctor, Zangief, and Gandalf would look like as Magic the Gathering cards. So, hey, I want to talk about what would an Avatar The Last Airbender Magic the Gathering crossover look like? Let's talk about what kind of things it might be, the possibility of it, and the most fun bit, brewing up a few hypothetical cards. Now, if you're coming into this video and wanting me to discuss Universes Beyond as a thing, I'm not really here for that. It's very divisive amongst players, some loving it, some hating it. I don't really like it when my decks have flavor clashes, so I don't really run any except for a few Lord of the Rings cards because the high fantasy flavor of those doesn't tend to clash with cards that they sit next to. Flavor balancing is actually one of the reasons I think an Avatar WotC product would work. Avatar is a fantasy universe with a strong visual aesthetic that would lend itself well to artwork on the cards. Bending in the show has the potential to be represented with some powerful spells, and characters like Aang wouldn't look out of place sitting next to a Jeskai monk, for example. On top of this, the 5 colours fit neatly into the world of Avatar, with 4 of them representing the 4 elements. Earth is the connection to nature, strength and resilience, and is very much summed up by the Earth Kingdom and Earth Bending. Oh, it's also a colour match, so that's fun. Water is dynamic, reactive, adaptable, and that obviously represents blue. Red is the colour of emotion. What do we know about firebenders? They get their power from their emotion, particularly rage. White is about spirituality, community, and that's very much describes the air nomads, and white as a colour. Black, then, itself is anything that's connected to darkness in the world. Cruelty, and in the original series of Last Airbender, can obviously be found mostly within the Fire Nation. So, we have a question. How might Avatar cards reasonably come into existence? As of current recording date, we have seen things like The Walking Dead, Fallout, Lord of the Rings, all receive treatments in Universes Beyond releases. The way that they get these cards out there is not all the same, however. WotC makes a lot of different products to the point of some being impossible to follow, and I'll discuss each and what they look like, starting with Secret Lair, Avatar The Last Airbender. Secret Lairs are a release that Wizards of the Coast do, where they sell a limited product directly from their website, generally between 4 and 10 individual cards with unique artwork and sometimes brand new mechanics. Wizards don't give game stores the chance to stock any of the cards in an attempt to cut them out of transactions, but this isn't the video going into the ethics of Secret Lairs. Love getting special artwork, hate the distribution method. Anyway, WotC have done a few universes beyond Secret Lairs. The Walking Dead, Street Fighter, and Stranger Things, just to name a few. For example, in Secret Lair for Stranger Things, 8 new cards were designed from the ground up, plus 1 bonus, a secret one that was released when the product shipped. The cards are all characters and locations from Stranger Things, with unique mechanics designed to represent them, and this feels like a very good template of how it would be executed with Avatar. The Stranger Things cards also have a very cool flavorful mechanic called Forever Friends, where you can have 2 commanders if they both have Forever Friends. This means you can recreate team-ups from the show. I saw a Reddit thread where one user did the same thing and calls it Team Avatar, and honestly that's so good. Link in the description. What would be in a Secret Lair like this? Taking the 9-card template again, and having it mostly be a creature focus, the 5-core cast of Team Avatar mechanically makes sense, that being Aang, Katara, Sokka, Toph, and Zuko, all at the end of the show representing their most empowered state. Adding Zuki in there, as she's a character who also gets to team up with the core cast, and is there in the final battle. Now, that's the characters I think can reasonably be classed as Team Avatar, but we need more slots to fill, and it makes sense to go with some strong fan favourite characters. Iroh makes a good choice, but I don't think you could justify giving him the Team Avatar mechanic. He's on their side, but he's not really part of the team, so he would be a standalone commander on his own. Lastly, Black Mana would be sorely underrepresented, so we'd need a villain, and who better than to make the firebending prodigy herself, Azula. Secret Lairs always come with a bonus card, and for The Last Airbender, I think this should be Firelord Ozai. This is a fun bit of symmetry as to how the show never reveals Ozai properly until the final season. He's always obscured in shadow. There you have it, the one way I could see WotC printing a Secret Lair out for Avatar The Last Airbender. Of course there's other cards they could do, and they wouldn't all need to be creatures, they haven't been in the past. But I think this is absolutely a way we could see something like this occurring. But of course it's not the only way that Magic represents other IPs. Avatar The Last Airbender bonus sheet. Something we have started seeing more of recently is bonus sheets, selections of cards that go into boosters that are not from the current set or world that Magic is visiting. In booster packs, we are seeing non-Magic the Gathering cards slotted in as bonuses. So far, we've had this done with Transformers and Jurassic World. They're calling it Jurassic World, even though it's depicting things from Jurassic Park. Just go with it. This is a way to have more cards put out there than just Secret Lairs would allow, with Transformers having 15 cards and Jurassic World having 20. Doing this with Avatar means you could have the characters I mentioned above, plus a few other members of the White Lotus maybe, Sokka's Space Sword as an equipment, or Sozon's Comet as a powerful sorcery. Avatar Commander Precons. We have had a few examples of wizards making dedicated pre-made commander decks for tie-in properties in the form of Fallout, Doctor Who, and Warhammer 40k. The decks have had a bunch of new cards made to fit the setting, and new art for old cards to reflavour it. For this, I think it would make sense to expand the list to include Legend of Korra, and do something similar to what Doctor Who did. The decks have face commanders and lots of potential pairs you can run as the commanders to represent different pairings within the shows. Lord of the Rings had 4 different commander decks, and I think this could be replicated with Avatar, with one deck being Avatar The Last Airbender, one deck being The Legend of Korra, one being expanded media like the comics, and one for the villains. Stretching it out like this might not work so well, so maybe just 3 for Avatar, Korra, and villains, and include expanded characters in the 3 decks. The last time we might see Avatar in a Magic product is with a full-blown set release. So far we've only done this with Lord of the Rings. A full set of hundreds of cards depicting characters, locations, items, events throughout the setting and story of Middle-earth. A big question for this one is, do I think Avatar has enough media to support the massive influx of cards a full set requires? Well, maybe. If you include The Last Airbender, The Legend of Korra, and maybe the tie-in comics, that include not only expansions to the show's lore, but go into detail on previous avatars before Aang, and I think definitely. If you enable time to bend a little and include reigns of the previous avatars, then there's a lot to work with. I'm not suggesting that Avatar has as much lore as Lord of the Rings. One thing that I think any version of an Avatar product, except maybe a Secret Lair, would have is reprints. Seeing cards that already exist with new art and flavour to be in the Avatar universe. The first is Lightning Bolt. Lightning Bolt is a classic Magic card that for 1 red mana deals 3 damage to any target. Lightning bending becomes a very important thing in the latter parts of The Last Airbender, and I think reprinting it with the devastating moment at the end of Season 3 where Azula kills Aang with a Lightning Bolt would be perfect. Secret Rendezvous is a spell that lets you and an opponent both draw 3 cards. I think this could depict the 2 lovers, Omar and Shu, meeting in the Cave of Lovers. This is a bit of fun world building with the name and mechanics, blending into the story of Avatar's universe. Greater Good is an enchantment in green that lets you sacrifice your own creatures and draw cards. This is kind of a rare effect in green, as it's normally a black mana thing. Depicting this effect with art showing the Dai Li from the Earth Kingdom, the name fits with what the Dai Li are doing, trying to be the greater good in Ba Sing Se, and sacrificing your own creatures for cards mirrors how they make people disappear in order to gain knowledge. Now, I'd go over a few legendary creatures like Aang and Katara, but instead go check out David Capra's Reddit post, where he makes cards for characters, or Manfred Plus Magic on YouTube, links below. If we do see a real Universes Beyond product for Avatar, we'll need to see more than just legendary creatures. So here's a few examples of some regular old little guys we get that aren't named but are still important to Avatar's world and setting. To help me show off the cards, I have the previously mentioned Manfred Plus Magic.
Hey all, first off we've got Abby's sister. She's a 0/3 human cleric with Defender that costs 2 and a white that says whenever another creature enters the battlefield, we'll gain a life. This takes place within the Soul Sisters of Magic, like a Soul Warden kind of effect that gains us life whenever something else enters. These Abbey Sisters are non-combative, showing their life of healing rather than violence. They're only in a couple episodes of Avatar, but these background characters really help flesh out the world. Not all people are military troops or benders, and I think this is crucial for in-depth world building.
Our bad boys in red will of course make an appearance, and I think there's many different versions you could have here. But the standard grunt we see in the show, I have designed to be a 2 red mana human soldier with 3 power and 2 toughness, who you can pay 1 red mana to give him +1/+0 until the end of turn. This is a common effect in MTG, commonly called fire breathing, because it was originally seen on dragons. Another piece of Magic slang, but let's not get into that just yet. But having the Fire Nation fire breathing is a neat bit of tying Magic's mechanical legacy with Avatar's lore and world building.
Now, what Magic set would be complete without non-creature cards? We already looked at a few potential reprints for other cards, but what might some others look like? Let's take a Saga as our example. In all Universes Beyond sets, we've gotten a Saga that aims to tell one of the IP's stories. So Doctor Who, for example, told the story of the Ninth Doctor's finale. The Fallout set used Sagas to tell the story of its iconic vaults. And Warhammer Sagas told its stories like the Horus Heresy. So it would make sense that an Avatar Universes Beyond set would have the same. So let's dive into the past with this saga, The Siege of Ba Sing Se. Step 1 grants all players a 0-8 wall with Defender. The massive toughness represents Ba Sing Se's nearly impenetrable wall. That toughness is going to be hard to get around. But Step 2 destroys all walls, and you make 2/2 red soldiers equal to the number of soldiers you already control. This is the Fire Nation breaking through the wall and just the massive amounts of numbers they have. And finally, you sacrifice a creature and flip the card. The sacrifice will likely be one of the tokens you just made. This represents Iroh's son Lu Ten, viewed as another disposable troop in the war. This event devastated Iroh. This is not Iroh as we met him in the show, but rather just after he leaves Ba Sing Se, hence his still black color identity. Which brings us to the backside of the card, Iroh defeated General. This is a star 6 legendary human soldier with vigilance and mentor, and says Iroh defeated General has power equal to the number of creature cards in our graveyard. The Siege of Ba Sing Se showcases Iroh's siege and defeat at Ba Sing Se. It's a tragic story of Lu Ten's death and Iroh's path to a new life. The red and black color identity represents Iroh's ways before this event and possibly some anger or ambition during the event. This was talked about in the show, but it was never shown. And that's why a saga would be perfect for this kind of event. We all know what it is and we know what it stands for, so showing it off in this way is actually really cool. Thank you so much for inviting me on the channel. This was so much fun. Glad we could get together, and make sure you guys subscribe.
Thank you very much, Manfred, for joining us and helping out with everything. As a reminder, his channel will be linked below. Well, there you have a few potential cards that we might see in a hypothetical crossover. Why did I do all this, you may ask? I have no idea. I just like both Magic and Avatar, and now that the possibility of them being together is real, it's just interesting to think about. What did you think of this thing that I did? Would you be excited to see a Universes Beyond Avatar release? What do you think some fun card designs or reprints would be? Let me know. Also, while you're there, go like and subscribe. Oh, and go do that for Manfred Plus Magic as well. He's got some great videos. Oh, and thanks for watching.